Since 1983, FAME has helped business and education work for Maine. Contact the authority, the Finance Authority of Maine.
Welcome. This is our Afterthoughts segment where we keep our guests around for some extended conversation and in a little more detail and hopefully some candid information on the subjects we've been talking about. Today with us we have Bruce Wagner, CEO of Barber Foods, and we're coming to you today, as you can see, from the Momentum Convention sponsored by Mainebiz at the Augusta Civic Center. Bruce, thanks for sticking around.
My pleasure.
We had a good session on the broadcast program, and also I was with you this morning
Yes.
where you were one of the guest speakers at a CEO panel here, breakfast panel. And I want to follow up on some of those comments. First of all, I want to back up and talk about, have you talk more about one of the things you did as you came into Barber Foods was you said you really needed to change the focus kind of for the company and from a customer-driven company to a consumer-driven company.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, our customers are the people who distribute our products. So speaking locally here in Maine, of course, Hannaford, one of the great grocery stores, Shaw's is present in this market, great companies. They are our customers, and we can't get to the final consumer who chooses to buy a product unless we work well with them. And that's very, very important. But at the end of the day, when we bring a product to a customer, we have to know it really meets the needs of a consumer. That individual walks down the hallway and says, I want that, and I know why I want that. And also in today's environment, some of the value we have to bring to our customers is that consumer knowledge that we can say, here's a new product. You may think
they're walking into Hannaford, and you're helping that customer because that consumer already knows something that they need. They're driven to that product.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons we've added advertising, but also I'll take a local company, Hannaford, when we go and say, hey, we have a great new product, and here's the consumer data that shows who we're trying to get to and how we're supporting this, then they have the confidence that it not only tastes good, but they know that there's a market for it, that this is worth doing. So at the end of the day, in a big nationally distributed product, and we're all in all 50 states, we really have to know when we develop new products and support our existing one, what the consumer wants and be very focused on that.
You took over the company February 2009. Great timing, by the way. Man, what a tough time to come in. And this morning in our session, you labeled that kind of 2009 period as flying in a fog.
Yeah.
Talk about that, and what kind of decisions did you have to make in that fog?
Yeah, I actually said flying in a fog, and there was a mountain out there that I didn't know where it was.
That's right, but there is a mountain somewhere.
We knew what that mountain was, but didn't know how and when we'd hit it. We had, just to say, I formally assumed the CEO role in 2009, but I had arrived at the end of 2007 as the Chief Operating Officer, so I had a running start. We came into 2009 having weathered 2008 decently. The early part of the year had been hyperinflation, then a collapse of commodity markets. But what happened was we have two major businesses, the consumer segment that goes to retail, and then a business-to-business for where we support restaurants and hotels and things like that. The end of 2008, the business-to-business part stopped dead. Hospitality activities were canceled, caterers stopped activity. That market just disappeared, and we didn't know when and how it would come back. In the retail segment, where you're in a more affluent time, and we focused on center plate entrees, a lot of our consumers were asking us to add more upscale. Well, overnight, the business environment changed, and we realized we're not competing against another center plate entree. We're competing against macaroni and cheese. We're competing against peanut butter. Because consumers have a downshift in this economy to other alternatives. They eat much less protein. So we knew that downshifting was going on. We didn't know where the bottom was, and we had to reposition our products to be relevant in that market. And we also had to have the courage to give up some market segments that we could no longer function in, and that was very difficult.
And difficult from the family-owned portion, the culture that was there. Wait a minute, that's a traditional product. We're used to that, we understand that, and you're telling us not to do that one, but focus here. How did you pull that off?
Persistence.
Okay, good.
Look, the family's been wonderful.
Yes.
And I think they knew early on we got through some tough times. And earned a chance to do it that way, and they've been extremely supportive.
So they were testing you as going along, and as you were able to deliver a result, they would say, okay, fine, let's go to the next.
Yeah, but it isn't like, okay, let's go. It's, well,
Show me
Dad
the next
invented
one.
that one,
Right.
and and there has to be some real discussion. So I had to put a lot of processes in place to drive it forward, to discontinue some products we didn't belong in, discontinue selling to customers that just want to buy it cheap. We had to really focus on a consumer base that was relevant to what we did.
Okay. You mentioned the hyperinflation in your industry sector in particular in 2007 and really peaking 2008. But you also then, and of course then bottom fell out, markets all changed, everything was up in the air. But you also this morning mentioned that you are predicting return to that hyperinflation in 2011. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this disturbs me because it's man-made.
Okay.
It's government policy-made, and I find it distressing that's going forward. Of course, we have a laudable goal to have greener energy, and we want to have more ethanol.
That's good. Right?
Sounds good. Sounds great. So let's have more ethanol, but I would like to have people get it from something other than food. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of people starving in the world, and in the food industry, we want to get food to them. So don't burn corn.
Yeah, what portion has moved into the ethanol versus roughly?
Some people are saying around 20% or more. And what distresses me now is the government.
Corn too.
It comes from corn, and that's what bothers me. We eat corn, and perhaps more importantly, corn is the basic feedstock for everything: pigs, cows, chickens. And so when the price of corn skyrockets, those costs move up very powerfully.
Right.
If in any year it's combined with any kind of shortage in the corn crop, those prices go through the roof. That's what happened in 2008. Mm-hmm. We're seeing it right now. The crop came in a little low. Don't have a big carryover crop into 2011. And the government just said, let's go from 10 to 15% ethanol. Right. They're subsidizing that. It doesn't make sense to me.
So in terms of hyperinflation, it hits you and then ripples through the consumer market through food prices. What's your prediction? Do you have a prediction? What are we looking at?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, and I may be on the higher side of this than some folks. I wouldn't be surprised to see 8 to 10% inflation in food next year if this hits the way I think. Where in the background, our inflation rate is near 0 or 1%. Okay. I think it's very concerning.
Right. That is concerning. Let me ask you another question. You also are one of the things I want to ask about, and people are really interested in, is your workforce. You are a primary employer of new immigrants to the U.S., to our area, and you've really invested them in terms of education. And talk about that experience, and from a business point of view, why do you do that?
Well, let's start. Gus had a vision and a heritage as an Armenian immigrant. Trying to do well in the U.S. economy. Right. He had a lot of empathy for newly arrived immigrants and really focused on hiring them. He quickly realized to make them successful, he had to educate them, whether that was basic English skills, because we have 50 different nationalities in the plant. We really have to have a common language. We can't have supervisors that do all 50.
50 nationalities.
It's amazing.
That is amazing.
And you'd think it'd be a Tower of Babel, but it's not. Right. It's an amazing amount of teamwork, because I think it's because we care for each other. I was very lucky because I ran a global business, operations in 22 countries, where I was the foreigner. Right. I was from outside. Right. And I have a great respect for the talent and knowledge of people that even if they don't speak our language or have our culture, can be unbelievably powerful. So I got excited about that aspect of Barber. And we've really tried to accelerate our commitment to the employees, not in just the traditional way of teaching English, which we do in partnership with the Portland High School, or opening up higher education. We try to make their job skills more fun and relevant and enrich their jobs, which can also allow them to earn more money. So we've moved from training somebody to hand form a chicken breast a certain way, which they may still do, to actually having great knowledge over a piece of equipment.
So that's the enrichment part for the job.
And they're really going to own the process.
And communication skills are a key part of that. Then that's why that's a payoff for the company. They say, yes, let's invest in this. It's good for them, but it's also we communicate in a common language better.
We do. And we've actually learned quite a bit about graphics.
I bet.
And it helps even native English speakers too. And if you walked in our plant compared to 3 or 4 years ago, the number of signs and the gauges will show you where it should be set. And but now we empower the associates to do that. Any associate can shut down any of our lines at any time if they see a personal or food safety issue.
Good.
No questions asked. And if they made a mistake, I'll still come thank them.
Thanks for sticking around. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, Alan. Enjoyed it.
Okay. Thanks.